Hello, good afternoon. This is Francisco Hansen. I'm the Global Director Advisory with VOQUZlabs. Welcome to our webinar of today, talking about SAP pricing. Buenas tardes. Have a good afternoon, guten Abend. Welcome everyone. For the ones coming from Europe, the other ones coming from America. Jan, you want to present yourself?
Sure, thank you, Francisco. Yes, my name is Jan. I'm in charge of the advisory practice in the UK for VOQUZlabs, but also supporting clients across EMEA and the Americas with advisory services and supporting customers with samQ and SKU implementations. Thank you, Francisco.
It's a pleasure. We'll run very quickly through our company and the offerings that we have so that you know who we are, but we don't want to spend too much time on that since we are a bit short of time with the hour. Now, just inviting you to use the chance of looking into our blog if you want to understand new things, news about SAP licensing, pricing, everything related to that. This is a good source. Have a look at it when you've got time. You can find maybe new things that you don't know of. Now about our company. Yeah, do you want to speak about it?
Of course, yeah. So we started up in 1980 as an IT service provider. Launched our samQ solution in 2010, and over the course of 5 years, rolled out that product, launching it into customers, and global expansion, so launching into the US and German markets. In 2018, that was followed by the launch of our SKU solution, which is the authorization manager. And today, we have offices all over the world, 400 plus customers, and offices in Romania, Germany, Great Britain, Netherlands, US, Mexico, and South Africa. So a company with a real, true global presence, and that's also reflected in the customers that we have. We have customers from all corners of the earth. So yeah.
Yeah, and so who are our clients? We have today about 400 clients. It's difficult to speak about them since the kind of business we do is often a very confidential business, especially when you're talking about negotiations and this kind of projects. So what do they do? Well, they do industry vehicles. They are car manufacturers. They have airlines. They are in the tech industry, in the IT industry. We have oil and gas clients. We have energy and facilities. So more or less all kinds of clients. They go from 300 users in their SAP systems up to 1.2 million users, which is our biggest client today. And they have mostly between 1 and 300 separate SAP systems that we manage with our software and where we help them in negotiating their contracts with them. So our business is basically SAP licensing, SAP authorizations and roles, and then all projects related to those areas, going from negotiations, audit defense, understanding how to resolve conflicts regarding licensing, analyzing your engine usage, analyzing your user licenses, digital access, looking at your terms and conditions, pricing in your SAP contracts. And these are the kind of things that we do with our clients. We are an independent company, which is important for our job. So we don't sell SAP licenses. We basically provide the tools and the knowledge that you need to manage your SAP commercial transactions, your negotiations with SAP, and to manage your licensing. So let's get to the important part of this and the reason why you came here, understanding SAP pricing. We're trying to do the artistic movement today of talking about SAP pricing without infringing any NDAs or showing you things that are not public, that are private, which is difficult in this area since most of you know, SAP's price lists are not public. In opposite to Oracle, they do this differently. Microsoft publishes a part of them. Well, SAP has so far decided not to do that. Fine with that, but still, as a client, you need to understand what we are talking about. Do you want to give us a short introduction about SAP licensing, Jan?
Yeah, sure. So here we have the main components of SAP licensing. So you have users, engine, database, and digital access licensing components to manage within your business. Now, all of these have various different components. So you have the needed license, you've got in SAP configured licenses. So that's license requirements that actually depend on the technical configuration of the systems. Purchase licenses, metric changes, prices and discounts, contract terms and conditions, cloud subscriptions, and the mix between on-premise and perpetual. So all of these different components contribute to how you manage your licensing mix with SAP. And then on the fringes of that, you've got change the business. So that's change management. You can have digital transformation, mergers and acquisitions, staff churn, rotation, new starters. So obviously user licensing is affected by that. And then you've got run the business. So the operational side of things like maintaining SAP security, maintaining compliance to your agreements, and of course, cost management and budgetary control. So all of these elements have to be factored into coming up with effective license management strategies. And obviously, when you're purchasing the licenses, that links in very much to how the software is priced in the SAP contract. So there's a great deal of complexity to manage, but we'll go through. We are going to go through some of that complexity to try and iron things out for you.
Okay, so when we're talking about pricing, one of the things you need to understand is, where do I find pricing? Where in my SAP contracts do I find these things, and what is important when we talk about pricing? Now, SAP contract documents can be a whole lot of different documents. Usually, when we are asked to review a client's contracts, we get a bunch of documents going from 20 up to 150 documents showing the contract history of the last 10 to 20 years of the client. So the main document here is mostly the software license agreement, which shows you what are the conditions of licensing SAP. But these are general terms, mostly not customer specific. Then there is a document where you sign your acknowledgement to this SLA. You have your software use rights. In most modern contracts, those are hyperlinked in the contract, showing an address in SAP's portal. Important here to download the actual version when you sign the contract and attach this to the contract, knowing that these are the software use rights that are valid in the point of signature of your contract. This shouldn't be the case. I mean, having a clause in a contract that refers to an external website does, of course, give any provider, any supplier, like SAP in this case, the possibility to change the use rights that you didn't know of when you signed the contract. So just get it printed out, attach it to the document. You will find the use rights version anyway written on the bottom of it. So what more? The software license agreement. On top of that, you have the exhibits or appendices to the SLA. Those appendices are the documents that show exactly what are you purchasing, what products, what is the pricing for them, the maintenance fees, etc. Then over time, those appendices may be amended in another appendix. You might have exchange agreements to exchange some licenses for others. You might have termination letters to terminate a part of your contract, or an exhibit that you are not really using. You have your support schedules, software order forms, affiliate user agreements showing which companies of your group do attach to this agreement with SAP, maintenance schedules, support terms. You find sometimes exhibits with consultant day rates, extra confidentiality agreements, extra general terms and conditions that you can also find on SAP's web. Sometimes use rights are included in the software license agreement. Sometimes use rights are included on the exhibits. And then you have also the pure software use rights. So it's different from time to time. So talking about the SLA document parts, just to let you know, what do you find there? Price and payment, term, proprietary rights, the audit rights, a very important thing, which normally are yearly. indemnifications and limitations of those liabilities, general provision signatures, nothing important. Jan, I give over to you.
Yes, pricing paragraphs in SAP documents. So what you normally find in an order form, which is an appendix to the master agreement or the general terms and conditions of your contract. So you always have the title and the preamble, a description of the licensed software and the database component. So for example, if you're licensing a third-party database like DBA or Oracle, you'll have a DB uplift associated to each of the licensing components you're buying. The price relevant elements, you have the license fee and payment. So the license fee will be described in terms of the gross license fee and then the net license fee after various discounts have been applied. So you have a volume discount, which is standard based on SAP's price list, and you have special discount, which is thereafter applicable to your specific contractual agreement with SAP, and that constitutes the net license fee that you ultimately pay for the software. You'll have some description of installation delivery of the software, but that's normally standard. You normally download or install that from the SAP marketplace. Also relevant for pricing will be the maintenance fee and payment. So the payment conditions on paying the support maintenance fees for the licenses. The maintenance base will be calculated from the net license fee of all the licenses that you've purchased. And then the maintenance charge will be whether it be 17 or 22% of that maintenance base. So when you, each and every order form that you purchase with SAP, whether it be 10, 15 or 20 order forms that comprise your agreement, each of them will specify the maintenance base for the licenses you've purchased. And when you're invoiced at the end of the year, in advance of your yearly maintenance renewal, it's the aggregated maintenance of all those individual order forms that make your maintenance invoice fee. You've got third-party database description of the conditions and where you can install the software. Licensing options, so things like if you've bought a particular license where you have exchange or swap rights, that should be detailed in the order form. Successor products will describe the rights that you have to install or upgrade to new products, or if it's making an old product redundant. Validity of the offer. So every order form is presented in terms of validity and signatures at the end. And what you need to do is make sure that when you're keeping in a state of contract documents, you always have to have the signed version that's been signed by your company and SAP. And that's the version that should be on file. Quite often we find when we're reviewing contracts, we're provided documents that lack signature, and it's never 100% certain that was the final version of the order form. So in terms of what was purchased and executed, it always has to be the countersigned document and keep those on file.
Yeah, so naturally it sounds, in many cases you really find contracts without signatures, contract without effective dates, which is not really acceptable. By the way, I didn't do my housekeeping, sorry for that. This meeting is being recorded and you will be able to look at it, listen to it again if you want to, or send the link over to someone else afterwards. We'll be anyway sending the slide deck to everyone after the meeting, so you can look it up and see the data that we have here. You can enter your questions with the platform and we'll try to answer all of them. Now, with the high number of attendants, it might be that we don't get to it, but we'll take these questions with us and come back to them and send you an answer via email after the meeting. Everyone is muted, of course, so that we don't have any issues with the sound. I'm already getting some questions, and one was coming from Denmark, I think, and the answer to this is, yeah, vi forhandler selv med SAP, which means, yes, we do negotiate ourselves with SAP, sometimes in the background, sometimes on the negotiation table. Sometimes we only prepare the client so that he's got the whole knowledge that he needs and the calculations, the estimations that he needs to be able to negotiate himself. So it depends on the situation. And yes, you'll get a copy of the session as someone else asked. Now, going over to the next one. Pricing documents with SAP. Before we start describing them, I'll just put out our first poll here, which is this one. Here you go. Who of you does have an SAP price list? I don't know. Here you should see the quick poll. Have you got an SAP price list? Did you obtain it from SAP? Did you obtain it from other sources or not at all? We are only interested in the total number. We don't see who's voting what, but it's interesting to see how this works. We just did it in the German-speaking area, and in the German-speaking area, we had research showing that not many people were surprisingly getting the list from SAP themselves. And about 45% of the people were getting it from other sources, and 55% of them didn't have a price list at all. Now let's see what we got here in the English-speaking room, although we are in Europe too. There are still people voting, but I think it's stopped now. There we go. I'm closing the poll and share the results. Have a look at it. Yes, some of them obtain it from SAP, others from other sources. That makes together 30%. 70% of our participants don't have an SAP price list. First message to that is ask SAP for a price list when you're negotiating with them. It is not, as you can see in the statistics, many people don't have one, but there are clients who are obtaining a price list from SAP. I would expect to understand what my level of discounts is and so on. So try to understand how SAP's pricing works. It is difficult. They have more than 3,000 single products on their price list. They have different price lists. Some of them, for example, the on-premise price list, which is the biggest one, and the cloud price list. And then they have the public list of prices and conditions. Although it's called this way, you won't find any prices there. This is just an explanatory document to the price list. And it explains how prices are to be calculated, how metrics work, etc. And then you have the measurement documents. Those you must download for each engine separately from SAP's website. Why are they important? Because metrics change. And if we're talking, for example, about revenue, you need to understand what is revenue. Is this the total revenue of your company group or only of the company that is signing the contract with SAP? If you're talking about sales orders, you need to know what to measure, how are sales orders measured. And this is not that simple. So having the measurement documents to the products that you have purchased is as important as understanding the price of it. So what am I saying? The metric explanatory documents downloadable on SAP's measurement part of the portal. Then the price list in itself, and then the prices and conditions. So let's move over to the next one. You want to speak about this one, Jan?
Yeah, so SKUs is an interesting one because for every product with a unique product name, SAP changed the product name description. So even the line item, if you take SAP Adobe Enterprise Forms for, it's a product called Enable the Enterprise, and it's one that most customers have on their bill of material. The actual description of that product has changed, and not only that, but the SKU number, the material number of that product has changed, so you've got SKUs changing, product name descriptions changing, and every single year they're adding new SKUs to the price list. So it can be quite difficult to track that when you make a new purchase. You have to be able to consolidate those within your bill of material and understand which products relate to each other. You've got metrics, which is the pricing vehicle upon which you purchase the software. We're actually going to go into break down the variety of metrics that the software is sold on. So that's obviously something that adds a little complexity, is keeping track of the various metrics that are used to price the software. Some software is sold in blocks of 1,000. Some software is sold in single units and multiples thereof. You've got pricing and currency variation. You've got from and to units, so that would be price tiering. And again, we're going to break that specifically down in further slides in this presentation. You've got cumulative max price list, so knowing where the cap is in terms of the maximum sell price for a certain product. You've got SAP application value, SAV relevant products. You've got HANA SAP application value, which is those products that are used to price purchase of the HANA database, and license remarks. And again, we'll go into a few of those, defining the remarks that you can find on the price list that define the definition of the pricing model for each of those software products. So you should be able to reference a description of the pricing model so you understand whether it's linear, cumulative, or tiered. And again, we'll go into that in some of the following slides.
Yeah, so coming back to some of the questions that we are getting. Is there such thing as free read-only SAP user license? Well, most clients would love to have that, but that doesn't exist. Nothing that I know of in terms of licenses is free, or that I can remember right now. So no, you have, we'll come back to the user license types to let you understand what we are talking about, but none of them is free, although they have a very big variation in prices. Now, the price list is huge and difficult to understand. Yes, I'm not saying if you're not an SAP licensing specialist, having the price list will like open your eyes towards everything. It is only that maybe if you buy licenses today, and now in 10 years you're renegotiating with SAP to exchange those licenses for other things, you will need now in 10 years the price list that was valid today, you know, what you paid for that. So documenting the pricing calculation is important. Maybe, I mean, we do have in our case a price list going back 20 years, but most of clients don't. So, and not every consultant does have this level of data. So it's important to keep as much data as you can have all together. So going on with the presentation, main price components of SAP, main calculation methods, let's say. The linear pricing is clear. You multiply the number of units times the price per unit. Now they have discounts, let's say quantity-based discounts, which is tiered pricing and cumulative pricing. So cumulative pricing is you pay every tier in full and step up, and tier pricing is you start directly at the tier that attaches to the number of licenses you're purchasing. Now you have here the pricing definitions. You find them also on the price list, but we'll get now into the meaning of this and why this is so important to understand. Now, not all products do have tiered pricing. Not all of them have cumulative pricing. So they have either one or the other of these three options. Now, what is the impact of this? Since we are not allowed to show SAP's price lists, we are showing a made-up product, but this is the way this is calculated. This is a real product, just with a made-up name, and what we see here is basically a product that goes down. It starts with 70,000 euros in this case, and goes down to 20,000 euros. This is the volume discount, and this is a tiered pricing. Now what happens? Let's see the first example. A company comes and purchases for the first time 10 units at 70,000 euros, making 700. Then the second purchase, they buy 15 units at 50,000, which is the next discount level. Overall, they have spent $1.4 million, euros in this case, sorry, and they have 25 units. Now, had they purchased from the beginning 25 units, they would have obtained the higher discount of 50,000, which is 29%, and they would have spent, well, 71% less. Well, this is no secret. This is more or less understandable. Now, the problem is, how about you purchase 26 units? Then you would be here, you would be paying 35,000 euros for each unit, which makes altogether 910,000 euros. So it means basically you have only spent 52% of the original amount. Now, why is this important? Because if you take some of SAP's products, these jumps that you have here, these big steps in discounts, they can make a difference that in a purchase adds up to $2-3 million US. And so knowing exactly those metrics here and the tiers for every price brings you in the position to purchase differently. Do you want to explain this graph? Yeah.
Yeah, of course. So here you have each peak is at the limit of each tier. So you have number of units purchased across the bottom. So if you track that horizontally and then track up to the pricing point, obviously at the top end of a tier, you're paying the highest price per unit, because the lower the tier, the higher the price, and the more you purchase, the lower the price. So in fact, what this graph shows is that when you make a very small incremental step up to the next tier, the per unit price tumbles dramatically. And in fact, your optimal purchasing point is an increment of units, which falls just after each tier drop off. So basically at the end of every single tier, it's a small increment thereafter. And actually what you find is if you look at the second peak, if you follow that across, it's the same price if you bought double the units. So you've got the units across the bottom of the graph, and the price point at the bottom of one of the upper tiers, because the price point is so small and the discount is so high, it's actually costs you the same if you purchased a much smaller volume of units in a lower tier with a lower discount. So in actual fact, it would be beneficial for that customer to purchase additional units at the same price, or just buy incrementally more and get a lower price. So it's very important to weigh up these purchasing mechanics when actually making a purchase, to look at, well, can I go up a tier and actually get a much higher discount for roughly the same quantity of units and actually pay much less? Or should I go up a couple of tiers where in fact the discount is so high it's actually the same price point as much less units on a lower tier? So yeah, we've circled there the optimal purchasing point, which falls after each tier. And you can see it looks like a Christmas tree lying on the side with tiered pricing in this model. When you model the pricing out, you typically get the same shape of graph. And it's very important to track these particular purchasing and pricing mechanics when buying under the tiered pricing structure.
Okay, so let's now come to another basic. This is a good looking SAP contract exhibit. I'm saying a good looking one because if you look at the older ones, you don't have that level of transparency and clear things. Now, is this really a good one? It is partially. Wow. First of all, what do we have here? Client name, they never forgot that, that's fine. SAP standard support, 22%, that's fine. Then we have the net license fee. This is basically the addition of the prices of every license. And as you can see in this example, you don't see anything on this right column. This is the first mistake that you very often find, contracts without line item pricing. You shouldn't be accepting this kind of a contract. In my opinion, it is important to have line item pricing. Why is that? Because you may come to a situation 5 years after purchasing, 10 years, where you decide that out of this exhibit that you purchased 10 years ago, you just want to keep the half of the products and you want to exchange the rest for new products. Now, you should know what you have been paying for those products. If you don't have the price lists, if you don't have the line item pricing, how in all the world do you want to estimate that? Not that it's impossible. We can help you getting there, having the price lists, understanding the total contract price. You can do some mathematical games to get there, but it is much more difficult to get there, and you don't always have the level of detail necessary to get there. Net license fee is the addition of the single license fees. And normally this would be the price that you have to spend now as a one-time payment for the licenses that you're purchasing. It might be though that you would have a credit here. Let's say you are canceling an old exhibit, or this exhibit is the change and amendment to an existing exhibit, then you might have a credit for old products that you are not using anymore. Then the net license fee, let's say it's 1 million, and the credit for the old licenses is 200,000, it would go down to 800,000. What does that mean? That means you will only have a one-time payment of 800,000, counting the credit, and then you'll have still a maintenance base of 1 million. Since the products that you have here, they have a value of 1 million, and you'll pay the 22% maintenance based on this maintenance base, which is the full. This is important to understand. So a net license fee can go down with credits, discounts, whatever. Well, with discounts, it means the payable price goes down, the total cost goes down. With credits, it does. I need to differentiate. With a credit, the maintenance base doesn't go down, only the net license fee. With discounts, net license fee and maintenance base go down. So if a client now has a discount level of 50%, which is, don't comment this, an acceptable, very average discount level, they would then have their support also going down by this 50%. That's important to understand. So your client discount is not only important for the one-time payment, but for the whole upcoming years, which is has a very, very big impact on your total cost of ownership from SAP. Okay. Jan, do you want to explain the user license particularities?
Of course, yes. So the modern SAP price list has quite a number of different SAP named user license types. The pricing and variations from one license to another can be quite significant. So most people will be familiar with a developer license being the most expensive, professional user being the most common license, and of all the standard license types that are not developer user, it's the most expensive one. And again, not showing you the specific prices themselves, but what we've done is showing you the ratio for each individual named user license type in respect to the professional user license type. Now, what you can see is that if you go down to look at some particular examples, like you've got the business partner user or industry portfolio user, they're about three. You get 3 of those for the price of a full professional. Further down the list, the SAP retail user, you get 5.3 of those for every professional user. Further yet, still a platform user or an employee user, you've got 8 and 12 times the ratio for professional. And learning user, employee self-service, these are 25, 53, and 80, the ratio of a full professional. Now, what that means is you have to very accurately profile your named user population and what they will be doing. And as you can see, by availing of the much cheaper license types on SAP's price list and not simply sticking to professional, limited, and employee, you basically can get much more volume in terms of licenses, and you're better fitting your named user licensing entitlements to what you actually need. And that's a much more effective way of buying. So basically understanding these ratios, making sure you're right fitting your user licenses to the needs of your business, because they're all provided for those various different purposes, and they can be utilized for those different purposes. And it means you're not overbuying in the more expensive license types and potentially spending too much. So that's one of the dynamics of the user pricing. Appropriate classification of users can actually change the total contractual cost by anything up to 30%. And most companies have maybe 3 to 5 different user types in their contract, and they might not be an actual good corresponding fit to the user roles that users are performing in the SAP system, and they could much better tailor that to the needs of the business, either avail of more quantity of licenses to satisfy their needs, or certainly buy cheaper by availing of those cheaper license types.
And you're speaking about something important, and we just got a question: what savings, if any, can be done for an annual maintenance bill during a certain contract term? Well, this is a question that you can't answer in general. Of course, you can do savings. You can see it here. I mean, there are companies in the market that do have 100% professional users. And if you consider the fact someone asked before, can I get a free user to only read data? No, you can't, but you can get 50 users for the price of a professional user. Now, how does this play into costs? Well, very importantly, and even if those users are not even named users, but people accessing your application through an SAP portal from outside, so business partners basically, then the price model is even different and even less expensive. So it is very important to analyze the real usage. How do we do this? Today we do this with tools. We look into the transactions, we analyze what every user is really doing, and we have a tool that allows us to suggest the least expensive user type for everyone. And thus, understanding if you are ending up with your user here on the lower part or on the higher part, and really providing every user with the license type that he needs according to SAP's requirements. So how much do prices go? Yeah, as Jan said, 30% is possible. We find things, I mean, you find anything on the market. When we do projects, we find people who do have a license deficit. We find people who have very, very big license surpluses, like up to 50% of their contract, or they don't have appropriate discount levels. You can find anything. So both on SAP's side or on the client side, sometimes it's more on the deficit, sometimes more on the surplus side. In any of those situations, understanding what you need is key to managing your costs appropriately. Because even if you now find out, well, SAP comes with an audit and they found out, well, you purchased 1,000 users, you have 1,500 users. Well, what SAP will tell you is you need 500 professional users, but you probably don't. And it is the difference of paying 25 times this amount or paying the lower amount. So you need to really understand what you need in your company. And now tools have gone down with prices very much. So my advice here is, do really use this kind of tools. We have one. You don't need to take ours, but analyze this, check the prices, check the possibilities, find out what you really need in licenses, because there is big money behind this. And we are talking about definitely, in many cases, many millions.
That's a valid, just to add to that, Francisco, the samQ tool that we use, we have price list simulation, so we don't just analyze the optimal use of your existing license assets and the cheapest license type available for each user. We can actually simulate SAP's price list and find out your true optimization position, in that where if you were to avail of cheaper license types on SAP's price list, we profile what your SAP users are doing and what corresponding license type they could be classified of, and that's whether you've actually licensed that type or not. And it tells you that you could potentially go and purchase cheaper license types from the price list and license your users using those rather than the current more expensive license types that you're actually using. So there's always space or room to optimize user licensing within SAP contracts.
So, well, and by the way, someone was asking, does SAP still provide all these user types? And the answer is yes, with the exception of the limited professional user. Only if you have those in your contract, and this is something important to understand, only if you once purchase the user type, you can still keep on purchasing more units of this one. If you don't have it in your contract, you won't be able to purchase the limited professional user, but all the other user types are in SAP's actual price list, plus the 4 S/4HANA license types, which is S/4HANA Enterprise Management for professional use, functionality use, and productivity use, plus the developer. All those we can also simulate and understand what you need in the future. So, and what should you be buying as a client? Well, this is damn difficult to answer in general. Should you be buying more expensive user types? Well, in my opinion, never. I mean, rather buy things when you need them. Most situations are those that new clients have all too many expensive user types, and clients that are longer in the business, they try to make use of those alternative ones, like the worker, the employee, the logistics user, the project user, all those options that permit you to use different transactions and, well, cost part only of the others. And we need to speed up a bit, Jan. I'm a bit slow in speaking. Now,
yep.
Digital access, we can't speak about everything digital access today. You find here SAP's Digital Access Adoption Program, which luckily has been now prolonged until end of 2021. This is a 90% discount on digital access. On the other hand, of course, something that no one of us is lucky about, something, a new license type invented to charge the clients more. And but at least we have this discount now, and we can help you analyze what you can do there. Now, what is elementary, what is essential to understand here? Number one, SAP estimates the number of users, documents. They don't measure it. For those who don't know it, let me start from the beginning. Digital access is what happens when you connect a robotic process automation system to your SAP, when you have Internet of Things, scanners, things providing measured data and getting this into SAP. You have a third-party CRM like Salesforce or Microsoft Dynamics and connect it to SAP and send sales orders into SAP, invoices. You have a non-SAP customer front end like a portal, your intranet, etc. All of these applications that provide documents into SAP, you will be charged for them, and you need to analyze what your risk exposure is there. Now, SAP, as said, does only estimate the number of documents. They have a tool to estimate this within SAP, but you need to go through every use case and understand, analyze, is this real digital access or is it not, according to SAP's licensing rules. And there are many of them, about 20 different exceptions that you can use to not produce digital access. What more? You can exchange old indirect access licenses. This means limited professional users that you might have been buying for those Salesforce users of yours, or sales and service order execution, purchase order execution engines, also for digital access, business partner users, but also in one of the last papers that I saw from SAP, something very surprising for me. I can provide you with this if you need it. SAP explains that you can exchange your user shelfware against digital access. That means all the old users that you had that you aren't using, you can exchange them also for digital access, which will lower your total digital access costs. So about that, by the way, let us bring in an additional brief poll, which is coming back to the use rights that will tell you what you have. What do you have indirect usage users? Are these limited professional users that you purchase only for business partners or also for internal workers? Does your employee user have the functionality of using every SAP report for himself, or does it not? So special user types. And the question here is, have you ever downloaded SAP's use terms documents? If you don't really know what you have contracted. So our thing here is read through the use rights part of your contracts. And if they have a reference to the website of SAP regarding use terms, use rights, then download the actual SAP use rights document. And well, as expected, here you go. Sorry, I might have interrupted some people, but we are a bit short on time. Sorry for not having translated that, by the way. Frage is Paul. And as you can see, 72% of people don't have ever downloaded the use terms document, which means many of you don't really know what your users and engines might be good for. So it's important to really read through this. I know, I mean, this is, I'm talking about an optimistic world. Most of you don't even have the time to do that. And I understand that perfectly. You don't only manage SAP, you manage Oracle, you manage Microsoft, you manage Adobe, Autodesk, etc. So having the time to cope with every product is difficult. But this is where we come in, and we can efficiently and quickly help you understanding this kind of things. Now, we said SAP licensing and pricing is users, engines, database, digital access. Now we are coming back to the database. Do you want to speak about this one, Jan?
Yeah, so database pricing, you've got, first of all, you've got SAP's own database, which is HANA, and you can choose between the runtime or full use version. So that would be standard. So the full use comes in standard or enterprise, and there's, you know, a dozen plus enterprise HANA products to choose from on the price list. You can see some of the variations on the right-hand side in the column. Runtime full use means that you can deploy any application on the database, and you can integrate data at the database level. Runtime means that you can only deploy the licensed SAP applications on the database, so it's limited to SAP applications, and that's charged based on the SAV of those applications that will be running on the HANA database. And with that particular license, one of the limitations is you can only integrate at the application level. So you have to really read the contracts in detail to understand the limitations and use rights of both the different database licensing options to make sure you choose the right one. SAV, as I mentioned, SAP application value, that's the value of SAP applications to be installed on the HANA database. You've got the HSAV metric, that's HANA specific SAP application value. Other databases like SQL Server are charged at 8%, 15%, and Oracle there at 25% uplift on the applications that you'll be installing on those databases. And there's a tiered pricing structure for HANA Enterprise. And maybe, Francisco, you can cover that a little bit in more detail.
Yeah. Let me go over the next one. Sorry, I thought this one was also about this one. I was just a bit distracted reading through the questions that people are sending us. So first of all, the process that we follow here when, for example, when a client goes over to S/4HANA, now he's got to decide what to do. What do I need in the future? First decision is, what are you doing with the database? Is this only supporting your SAP applications, or is it supporting more? Are you developing on the HANA database? Are you planning to do business warehouse applications? Are you doing this kind of things? And the pricing model is very, very dependent on that. You can see, I mean, Oracle was once in a while, I think years, might be some 10 years ago, it costed 12%. So there is a political movement here. Oracle is the most expensive database you can have with SAP today. In theory, of course, because you could basically quit the database with SAP and contract it directly with Oracle. So this is option number one. But then again, you can see that a SQL Server client is not punished that much for not using HANA as a DB2, well, DB2 not really, or an Oracle client. DB2 is on the same level as HANA, although it is not an in-memory database in case you need an in-memory database, which is the next question. And now, if you have now decided HANA or not HANA, this is first one, then it is HANA full use or not. And HANA full use has products, a product list, I don't know how many these are, 3, 6, 9, 12 products you can see here. You can contract. It has a strange similarity to Oracle's price list with predictive search and text, spatial and graph. If you change the number in the front, it is exactly the same product as you get with Oracle. So the thing here is this is contracting all of those products, by the way, also tiered pricing, a very important thing here. This goes up with the price by a lot. So if here you're paying the 15%, with this configuration, which is gigabyte based and modules of 64 gigabytes, the price can really easily go up by the double. So it's an important thing. So again, I was being asked by some clients, so if a customer, can a customer downgrade his users? Well, depending on, first of all, you can do anything that you are able to negotiate. So there is almost nothing that I haven't seen, apart from someone using SAP for free, which even I'm not sure about that. So it is a negotiation thing. Do you have swap rights in your contract? Some clients have swap rights, most of them limited to a certain amount of years, mostly not more than 2 or 3 years. And if you have swap rights, you might change swap rights for, you might change licenses. Now, someone was asking, do you limit the development of your SAP platform if you use the lower user types? Well, you limit it now. But the question is, why should I be paying something that I will need tomorrow? I'd rather buy it and pay tomorrow. So you're not limiting anything. You're adapting your purchase to what you need today. And when you need more, you will buy more. And that's the way it should work. So what more? User type and activities allowed. This is defined in the use rights, sometimes not clear enough. We have a database of 100,000 transactions attached to the user types. So we can tell with the software what everyone needs. To do this manually, honestly speaking, I was trying this for 6 or 7 years. There is no way you can do that. You need tools. I've been working as a licensing advisor for many years before I started working with tools. And in the case of SAP, I mean, in other cases, might be in Oracle, you need smaller tools. With Microsoft, you have some Microsoft tools that you can use. With SAP, working without tools is negligent, in my opinion. And I'll tell you the same if I stop working for VOQUZ. It is just, you need to weigh the investment and the cost of the tool according to your potential outcome, to the return on investment, of course, with any investment that you make. But in 90% of the cases, it's worth it. So let's go down to engines. engines. In the actual price list, these are the engine metrics that you find. Engine metrics, this is my almost last slide, so I'll try to make it in time, maybe 3 minutes late. 50 different engine metrics, some of them technical, like cores, like gigabytes, servers, instances or installations, CPUs, and many of them business metrics like employees, plants, cost of goods sold, revenues, freight spends. Now, the price per unit in SAP's price list, it goes from €3 per unit to 3.4 million euros. Metrics and pricing change quarterly or annually. Sometimes they stay for 3-5 years, 5 maybe not, but a longer time without changes. But many of them are constantly changing. The product sets, the product mix, the product naming is changing. So you need to catch up with that to understand what you're buying. You have automatic measurement, so engines that you can measure technically within the system, and others where you have to provide in a form your assessment to SAP's audit team, like revenue, for example. It isn't measured from within the system, but just as an external measure. Measurement is not one-to-one. For one engine, you might have up to 9 measurements. You see here an example. This is sales orders, which is an engine, and for this sales orders, you have 6 different metrics that you need to add all together. In some cases, not all of those measured values are to be added to have the full value. There are exceptions, informational values that don't have relevance for the measurement. So you need to download the documents where this is explained. Another thing here, understand there is a cumulative max list price. Most engines have a max list price. That means even if you buy 1,000 units, price doesn't go up from 100 units upwards, for example. So you need to know, having the list price, is there a cumulative max list price? I have seen occasions where by mistake or whatsoever motivation, a client was paying more than the cumulative max list price, which isn't according to SAP's pricing and licensing rules. So take care of that. Cumulative and tier prices we spoke about, and this is another problem we have in the price list. This is the amounting, the amazing chunks of in blocks of that we have. $500 million or euros here of revenue. It is a big difference if your company makes 500 or 999 million euros of revenue, but you would be paying the same, but €1 more and you pay the double. That doesn't work. This kind of big chunk metrics are not accurate, that don't reflect the client's needs. SAP is going down from them. For example, the billion has disappeared from the 2020 price list, but still we have the 500 million. Coming to the end, conclusions. Always request an SAP price list as a contract attachment. Let's match the right expectations. Not every client will get one. Not smaller clients will have a tougher job in getting a price list. So don't expect it's easy to get it, but don't try. So request a copy of your use rights, request contracts and appendices with line item pricing, very important one. Request explicit discount indication. If you negotiated today a 60% discount, why would you have to start over in the next purchase and negotiating that you want to get again a 60% discount? You have a total volume that is bigger than before, so keep it, stay with a bigger discount and make them write it into a contract. They do that, and don't start from scratch every time you negotiate discounts. Log your product purchases with SKU date of purchase, metric and blocks. Do not omit including special agreements in your contract. You can't believe what important agreements, verbal agreements I have seen in mails, in verbal agreements that are not reflected in contracts. This is so superficial, so it seems so cheap, but it is still something that's happening. So really mind getting them to write this down. Request a measurement process, their measurement process for new metrics when buying additional products. Some clients almost get, and sometimes not almost get, to sue SAP and get into very big conflicts about metrics, because metrics sometimes, opinion differences about metrics can make up to 10, 20 million euros. So it's important to know what a metric means. When someone is talking about bank accounts, it is important to understand what a bank account is. When someone is talking about spending, it is important to understand which spending, the one of the contract signing, the one of the companies signing the contract with SAP, or of the whole group. This kind of things change the panorama absolutely, so really take care of those. So thank you very much, everyone, for staying with us. Please follow us and you'll be invited to the next meetings. I think these things that we have been talking about today, you will find more of this in the next webinars. If you want to be informed, follow us on LinkedIn. And here you will get our contact data, Jan's and mine's. If you want to send us an email, contact us, have us supporting you with anything, we'll be glad to do that. I don't know, do we have more? Yes, we do have more questions. So what I will do is I will write them down and answer them by email to you, so that you have a chance to get back to that. Thank you very much, everyone. It's been a pleasure to have you here, and look forward to speaking with you, if possible, personally in the next month. Have a nice week and a successful week too. Bye so far.
Thanks, everyone. Bye now.